All right, so today we're going to continue on, and it was very painful to write this, all of this code here just to get a string from the user on the console, right? Painful. So let's move this and create a function out of this. And so I'm going to see if they have a refactor here. Extract. We want to extract a method. So let's see what it does. So we're going to call it getString. Private, it's going to take well, this doesn't really let you. Well, let's do it anyway and let it create my little thing here. So it creates a. Remember, Java is very strongly typed, so we want this getString to only be available inside of this class main. Well, because we don't have any other programs yet, so I'm going to make it private. If I made my own class, then I would make it public, so I could actually get access to it. Then it's static, and then this is the type of data that it's going to return. So getString will return a string. So we tell it, we have to cast it, tell it that my method is going to return a string. Then the input, I don't really need an input, so I'm going to take this out. And continue on, so it's going to take nothing. And I need to declare my user input then. So I'm going to declare that inside of my method. And make it null. And then at the bottom, so I'm doing the same buffered reader, try, catch, except. And at the very end, I'm going to return the string that I got from the read line here. So return user input will return to this call. And the extraction already made a call to my getString, and I took out the user input as an input. I don't need to pass it anything. I just want to get something back from it. So that should do it, right? So let's run it and see. See how easy that is with extract? I'm sorry you did that. All right, slowly coming up and it's launching here. Seems to be running really slow today. All right, so there's my stuff that I printed. And then it's sitting there waiting for input. And I'm going to say Dave. And so Dave got returned in my user input. User input got the value of Dave, and then I printed out the value of user input here. Pretty easy, huh? So now I have a method to get a string. That works pretty good. Let's change this to pass in a prompt for the user. Okay, because usually you want to ask them for something and then get something back. So let's change our method here to have a prompt. And we'll say, we'll pass in a string of, we'll call it prompt. Pardon me? Yeah. I mean, you have to ask them you have to ask them what you're asking for. You have to know. You have to have a prompt, yeah. So, how do we print out that prompt? There we go. Thank you. System.out.print. And I'm going to use print only because I like my prompt on the same line as where my get is going to be. And I'm just going to print prompt. All right? So now it automatically, IntelliJ says, oh, you have a problem. I don't have a method that will pass in a prompt here. So I have to pass something in. Please enter size of box. All right. So I'm passing a prompt into my get string. I'm going to get something back into my user input. Let's run it. All right. Please enter size of box. And there it is. I've got a space after, a nice little prompt. And I'm going to put in 20. And it's going to print back 20. Isn't that great? Nice little method there. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff because you guys know how to do while loops and for loops. And so I don't have to keep seeing that all the time. So if I want to draw a box, I first have to ask the user, how big do I want to draw the box, right? We're going to try to draw a box using asterisks like we did in Ruby. So I get back this user input. What type of data is user input? String, okay? So a string does not an integer make. So how do we convert a string into an integer? We can't just cast it. We have to parse it. Okay, so there is a method called parse int. So we need a size variable. So let's create a size variable. Int size equals 0. We'll declare it right away. I can say that size equals parse int of the user input. All right. So we don't want to create the method. We're going to use this built-in data type converter. So it automatically imports that we need to convert the parse integer. All right? Well, we could. There's lots of them. I could use integer dot parse int. Then I don't need this. All right? You like that better? Fine. So we're calling the integer class a method called parseInt on the integer class. So it's very similar to Ruby, right? You can see that very, very similar to C#. And now what type of data is size going to be? An integer, yay! All right, so now we need to use that value and print that out to the screen, right? So how would I start printing my box? What's the top of my box? Asterisks, right? So how do I print that many asterisks? So I'm going to use a for loop. And I equals 0, I less than what? Size, right? I plus plus. And I'm going to do my system.out.print, and I'm going to print an asterisk that many times. Then at the end of that, what do I need to print? Right. So I'm just going to do a system.out.print line with nothing. All right, so let's see if that works. So I'm going to have a box of 15. Look at that. Is that sweet? Bada boom, bada bing. Now, why do you think I'm choosing assignments that you've already done before in another language? You're familiar with the structure, right? The program itself, the logic itself is the same. That doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the syntax. So when I set out to learn a new language, I choose one of the things that I've written in the past, and I try to write it in the new language because I know how the logic flows. That's not the issue. I know what I want to do. So I can go look up the methods that I need to have happen in the new language, and it just flows a lot easier. I'm learning the syntax as I go. So when you're out trying to learn a new language, that's what I suggest you do. Take the maze and write it in Java, or take some old assignment that you had and write it in Java. Just play around with that. All right? So that would print out the top and the bottom. It's not as easy as Ruby, is it? Ruby had a nice multiplication of a string, and it would print 10 asterisks, or I could say asterisk times 10, and it would print out 10 asterisks. That's just a nice little feature. So let's create a method to do that. All right? So I created a method called multString. Call it whatever you want. So you're way ahead of me there. So we can have this private since it's only in our own class. Static. And what is my multString going to return? A string, right? So I have to tell it that my method is going to return a string, and then I name my method multString. And what type of data does my multString method require? The size, all right, so it needs an int. Length of the string, what else does it need? To make this more generic, what else does it need? What character to multiply, right? What character to bring in. So I'm going to bring in a string that's just a character, I'll call it CH. And now we need to do something with that, very similar to what we did up here. So I'm going to copy this code here and move it down here. I'll do it manually so you see what happens. So this is now length, because I changed the name of the method, of the parameter. And instead of, remember what I said about methods and classes, what should they not do? Print inside of the methods, right? We try not to do that because we want the caller of the method to do what it wants with that. So what are we returning in our multString? A string. So I need to have a string to build up my string. So I'm going to have a string, we'll call it st, and we'll initialize it to an empty string so that I can keep adding to that. And instead of system outing it, what should I do with the character that comes in? All right, so I'm just going to say st plus equals the character that they pass into my method. Did you have a character in your method? Did you? Okay, good. That's funny. See? All right, so now my string is going to keep building up a character at a time until it gets to the end of that, right? Now, what would I do instead of printing a line? I think we should leave that for the caller to do. So what would I do? Well, how do I get that value back to the caller? Return st. Very good. So now, pardon me? Shouldn't be. No. It's just not being used yet. Is that so? I'm not calling it yet. All right. So now let's call our multString, and I can just say system.out.println of whatever my multString with the size that I get from the user and the character that I want to print. And that will print out this value. So what does this value get replaced with? What type of data? A string. So I can pass that string straight into my print line method and not have to save it as another variable, right? I just pop it right in there. See if it works. So let's do a 10. There we go. Let's count our characters. Make sure. Let's do a smaller one so I know it's valid. So we got 3 asterisks. I sent in 3, so that's perfect. I don't have a problem with my Boolean expressions here or anything. Everything is happy and hunky-dory. All right, so now I got a nice little mult string. So how do we convert that into a box then? That prints the top of my box. How do I print the bottom of my box? Do it again, right? So I'm going to copy and paste this. Run it again. And again, this is how I code. I do a piece at a time. So now I've got my top and my bottom of my box. All I need is the internals of it. All right, so how do we do that? So I'm going to, all right, so you guys do that. I'm going to pause, and I want you to write the loop that would print out the sides of the box going down and spaces in the middle of the box. All right, so let's, what we need to do is to print something like this. We need to have an asterisk followed by some number of spaces followed by an asterisk, and we need to do that some number of times, right? So we've already drawn the top and the bottom, so we only need to print these lines how many times? Size minus 2, okay? So let's just figure out what it would do to print that line in first of all. So I need to print an asterisk followed by, I can use my mult string now since it's generic to print a multiple space string, right? So I'm going to say mult string of what? How many spaces would I print? Size minus 2, and I'm going to pass in a space then instead of my asterisk. And then the end of that line, I have to add back in another asterisk.
Can you see variables outside your methods?
Say that again?
Can you see variables outside your methods?
No. All right, so that will print one line. Let's do it. See how it works. Very good. It's a start, but I need another one of these lines. So I need to do this some number of times. So I do a size minus 2 dot times do, right? No. I do a for int I equals 0, I less than what? Size minus 2, I plus plus. And I'm going to print that line that many times. So now this is my box. This entire piece is my box. Let's see if it runs. Yay, is that sweet or what? So I've got 3 lines down, plus the top and the bottom, that's 5, and I've got 5 asterisks across, so it's correct. Might not look right, but it's correct. All right, so let's run it again. Let's try a bigger box. Nice big old 20-sided box. Very cool. All right, so how would I take this and make a method out of this to just draw a box based on the size of the box?
Public or private for you. DOS. That or private space static
Static.
Rounded brackets, put int
Going to call it box. So I need the size and what?
size.
Just the size?
Depends how you do it.
Depends on how I do it. So what else is variable in this?
Is it going to be just a square?
Yeah, it's just going to be a square. So we'll call it square instead, so it'll be an actual square. So I need the size, right? Size of the square. What else would make this more generic?
You could do different characters.
Right, I could do a different character. So let's pass in the string that I need to print this stuff out. I have to be different than Ryan somehow. Right? So let's take my code here and put that into my square method. And let's replace these things with the variables. So I need this ch to be replaced by, the asterisk to be replaced by my ch everywhere that's there. Now it's more generic. It depends on the character that I pass in. Again, do I want to use print line? Not in the method, I don't, right? So I'll let the outside program figure that out. So I'm going to say string, box. Right, so I need to, instead of printing it out, I need to just concatenate this. Or not. All right, so when I replaced that, though, it was a print line. So what did that do to the screen? Well, let's let you think about that while I work out these others. We're going to add the box plus equals this entire piece here. And then here we're going to do the same thing. All right. And then at the end, I need to return my box string. Oh, I need that to be a capital S for my string. So now I can call it, and I can just do a system.out.print line of my box, and I'm going to pass in my user input, or my size, and the character, let's use an X this time. All right, let's see what happens. Uh-oh, got a problem. Can't find the method box. Oh, because I changed it to square. So my method name is square. Is that better? Better, Mr. Java? Okay, size of box, 5. Look at that, printed perfect. What's wrong with that? It's all on the same line, right? So how do I make a carriage return in a line? Back in, /n, right? Let's see if that'll work in my box. So every time I do this, I'm going to add a /n. Depends. There we go. Well, it depends on what you expect this to have. Yeah. I mean, that's up to you, whether it's going to do that again or not. So now I can print multiple boxes. I can do something like for int I equals, let's start at 3, I less than 20, I plus plus. And instead of printing a fixed size, let's print I and see what happens. What doesn't it like? No. So look what it did. Isn't that cool? Printed all kinds of different sizes for my box. Isn't that cool? Russian doll caching, that's right, for Rails. Very good. All right. Any questions on all of that? We've created our own methods inside of this class. I think you have enough now to do your assignment of the triangles and the diamonds. It's a little more complicated, but I expect that you would do it using methods like I did. I've given you half the code, so it shouldn't be too hard. The rest is easy. Printing out the string, that's the hard part. And getting the variable from the user. So, pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Give them a size. No. You have to ask me for a size, and it will print. So for you, you're going to ask for a single size, and I want you to print a right triangle and a left triangle and a diamond, all from that same size. So you don't have to ask me 3 times, please. Yeah, you can hard code your character if you want. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you what that is. Oh. All right, let's see what happens here. Let's see what happens with our method. If I type in, I'm going to get an exception and it's going to crash. So how do I fix that? Try catch. I showed you how to do that. I leave that to you to figure that out. So you're going to have to catch the fact that you're parsing an integer. So around that parse int, wherever that is, you're going to have to try catch and do what? What would you do? Ask them the question again until they enter a real number. That's what I would do. All right? So you guys should know how to do that by now. No, crashing is bad. So I leave that for you guys to do. Any questions on any of that? Fun stuff, huh? Your next assignment's even going to be more fun. Yeah, an iPhone app. All right, that's it for today then.